Welcome to Ranger Stories. My name is Tennyson E. Stead. I'm the creator of Jump Rangers, and this is the show where I read things that I'm writing in the Jump Rangers universe and probably edit and discuss them for your viewing pleasure. Today, we're reading Jump Rangers, a game called Conquest, Chapter 14. If you'd like to catch up on previous episodes of Ranger Stories, you can find those episodes on the YouTube channel at youtube.com/Jump Rangers. Let's begin. You learn some pretty interesting things about people when you take the time to ask them how they did the things they've done. Bringing the spore to planet Mist was a decision that changed the course of Mistling history. In some way or other, that decision has affected every Mistling who was living at the time, and every Mistling that's lived in between then and now, and every Mistling who will ever live until the end of time. If you listen to Most Glorious and Exceptional Squeak, it seems like something the Nomads might have rushed into. Turns out they were a lot more careful than the other Mistlings give them credit for. Back when we were talking about the Citrine Caverns and the Rockman beings that helped to build them, that's a typo, I mentioned a Rockman called Moldavite. Older than any human being would ever believe, maybe old enough to have seen life begin on planet Earth. Moldavite is a giant person made of purple crystal. Long ago, by which I mean long before people knew about things like the Saurian Horde and the spore bugs and the loom, Moldavite lay down in their crater to rest and watch the sky. Over the years that have come and gone since then, Moldavite's purple crystals have grown to overtake that crater completely. Moldavite's entire being has become a big, sparkly purple dish. From that crater, Moldavite can see what's going on all across the galaxy, like a living telescope. They've watched the Saurians invade Planet Mist. They've watched all kinds of things from Amethyst Crater in the time they've been there. They don't get up and walk around much anymore, but it doesn't seem like they miss it all that much. They don't get up and walk around anymore, is what it says. But it doesn't seem like they miss it all that much. Before Scrap was going to help us track down some spores and bring them to Earth, they wanted us to talk to some experts. Before Scrap... There's too many words. Before Scrap set out to track down spores and bring them to Earth, they wanted us to talk to some experts about whether or not they thought it was a good idea. About whether or not I just wanted us to talk to some experts. Before Scrap set out to talk... I'm a little zonked and I've got a lot of work, so this is going to be perhaps a little bit sloppy, but we're going to get through it. Before Scrap set out to track down spores and bring them to Earth with us, they wanted the Sarge and I to talk to some experts. None of the mice on the Vitriol ever mentioned that the Nomads had been getting advice from aliens. In fact, I'm pretty sure nobody on the Vitriol even knows about Planet Rock. When the Nomads made their presentation to the Mistling Congress, they made it sound like using the spores to fight the Saurians was their idea. Maybe that's fair enough. After all, it really was their... After all, they were the ones looking for alternatives to fighting the Saurians. To all-out war. Maybe that's fair enough. After all, they were the ones looking for alternatives to all-out war against the Saurians. What they found was Moldavite and all the things that Moldavite shared with them, but it was still the nomads who went looking in the first place. What's more, it was the nomads who were asking the Mistling Congress to consider using the spore. In the end, it was the nomads who ignored the Congress and brought the spore to Planet Mist. None of the nomads wanted the Mistlings to blame the Rockman people if they didn't like how things were going. What I'm saying is, the nomads weren't taking credit for the help they were given, they were taking blame. If the nomads were going to help the Sarge and I save Earth. Okay, is that. So we can shore this up a little bit. Okay, I think this sounds a little better. Just a little bit cleaner is kind of what we're looking for. What they found was Moldavite and all the things that Moldavite shared with them, but it was still the nomads who went asking the Mistling Congress to consider using the spore against the Saurian horde. In the end, it was the nomads who ignored the Congress and brought the spore to Planet Mist. None of the nomads wanted the Mistlings to blame the Rockman people if the Mistling Congress didn't like how things were going. What I'm if the Mistling Congress okay. What they found was Moldavite and all the things that Moldavite shared with them, but it was still the nomads who went asking the Mistling Congress to consider using the spore against the Saurian horde. In the end, it was the nomads who ignored the Congress and brought the spore to Planet Mist. None of the nomads wanted the Mistling Congress to blame the Rockman people for what was about to happen. What I'm saying is, the nomads weren't taking credit for the help they were given, they were taking blame. If the nomads were going to help the Sarge and I save Earth, then we needed to take the blame too. If we didn't, and if the spore and if people can't see the sense in what we done, if we didn't, and if people couldn't see the sense in what we've done, then they'd be hunting the Mistlings the same way Undersores are hunting us. If this plan has any chance of working, then the Sarge and I have got to be willing to take responsibility. Whatever happens, it's happening because of us. Let me put it this way. Admiral Paxis wants the credit for winning the war against the Saurian Horde, but he doesn't want the credit for starting that war in the first place. Yes, the Saurian Horde invaded Earth, but it was never a war to them. To them, we were a lower life form. We're bugs, and that's why they exterminate us. Admiral Paxis wants to make them respect us as an enemy. Has the Admiral ever even stopped to think about what happens if the Saurian Horde starts actually respecting us as an enemy? What happens if they actually think we're a threat? Imagine what happens if they come for us the way they come for the Loom. I don't care if the Saurian Horde ever respects us on the battlefield. I want them to give us room to breathe and to live our lives. If they can do that, I don't really care what they think of us. Don't get me wrong, if there was ever a chance that we could be allies, or learn from one another, or be actual friends, that would be cool. I know we're a long way from there. Even hoping that a single Rexor, let alone the whole Saurian Empire, could ever think of human beings as serious equals or serious friends, or even just beings that are on the same level in some way, feels like it's way too much to ask. It feels stupid. But it's something I've had daydreams about. Don't laugh at me. All I'm asking for is that they leave us be. Back on Earth, humans learned that the bugs and the animals and the microbes and that the planet we were all a part, that the plants Yeah, my nose is stuffy. All I'm asking for is that they leave us be. Back on Earth, humans learned that the bugs and the animals and the microbes and the plants were all part of a system that was keeping us alive, and that we had to back off. Maybe something like that can happen. I don't care if they like us. I don't care if they fear us. If I cared about those things, I'd be starting fights that I don't need to start. And that's what's wrong with Admiral Paxis. That's what I said to Moldavite. After I laid things out for Master Darwin in the flickering chambers, the nomads wanted Moldavite to hear what we had to say. Walking us out into the hot, dry surface of planet rock, we climbed up over the lip of the amethyst crater and down into the forest of purple crystals. Even the ground between the hard, rocky shoots of translucent stone was covered in smaller geodesic crystal growth, all smushed and pressed together until there was no place for the crystals to grow but up. Down there in the crater, the Sarge and I could hear Moldavite in our heads, not invasive or loud, so much as like a breeze that was blowing through our minds. Moldavite wanted to know why we wanted the spore to come to Earth, and we told him it was to stop the war. Big, dumb, complicated things were happening. We wanted to make them simple. Earth is under repairs. Come back later. Then I explained how this whole idea was something the Sergeant and I were looking into on our own authority. Nobody was making us do this. Somebody else is to blame. If people have a problem with it, no. Okay, here we go. Sorry about it. The Sergeant and I were looking into on our own authority. Nobody was making us do this. Nobody else is to blame if people have a problem with it, which they will. Let's be honest. What Moldavite told the Sarge and I was that the older you get, the smaller the galaxy becomes. When you've lived to be 1,000,000 years old, or whatever it is, there's only a few beings out there who really get what you're going through on a daily basis. All the other things happening in the galaxy seem small by comparison and predictable besides. For too many years, Moldavite has watched the Saurians and the Loom fighting their war and conquering planets. When the Mistling nomads started looking for ways to stop it, Moldavite introduced them to a friend who'd seen it all before and knew how to handle things. This is where it all gets very, very weird. Somewhere out there in the cosmos, and I still don't know where exactly, there's a planet named Eden. Much as the world of Eden is beautiful and full of different biomes and climates and whatnot, Eden isn't just a planet. Eden is a person with a body and mind and heart and spirit. In fact, when you meet them, it occurs to you that Eden must have more body, mind, heart, and spirit than any person you've ever known. When I first had that thought, Eden told me that the universe is made of these things and that we all have the same amount. We're all connected. More Psy Ranger talk. That's what Eden had for me, but now I'm getting ahead of myself. Back on Planet Rock, Moldavite was explaining to us that they had a sort of long distance relationship with this friend who's had to deal with both the Saurians and the Loom. This friend, Moldavite explained, was a planet. To deal with the Saurian colonists who kept trying to build outposts for harvesting and strip mining, they infected themselves with a plague that would sweep across the Saurian Empire like a wildfire. To this day, that plague keeps the expansion of the Saurian horde in check. To this day, no Saurian ship has ever gone back to planet Eden. To deal with the Loom, Eden created the Spore. Massive, giant, constantly evolving bugs that overwhelm ecosystems and cleanse it of foreign technology seem like the perfect solution to a constantly expanding empire of super intelligent, gadget crazy cyborgs determined to purify the galaxy. What Eden never predicted was that the Loom would give up on being actual organic people altogether. Instead of fighting things out with the Spore, they just quit breathing, eating, and drinking, uploaded their minds to the batteries aboard their motherships. Here we go. Uploading their minds to the batteries aboard their motherships made them free to live in asteroid belts, on airless rocky planets, and in all kinds of hostile environments where the Spore don't build hives. Maybe eventually the Spore will evolve and finish the job of scouring the galaxy clean of Loom. Maybe it's enough that the Loom are keeping some distance from planets where new life is trying to thrive on its own. Either way, Moldavite has seen the Spore drive the Loom from their own homeworld, and countless others. Moldavite watched the Loom decide that winning their war was more important than keeping their actual bodies, their homeworld, and everything else they gave up when they uploaded themselves into the data storage devices they now call home. I'm going to add an extra word there. Either way, Moldavite had seen the Spore drive the Loom from their homeworld and countless others. Moldavite even watched the Loom decide that winning their war against the galaxy was more important than keeping their actual bodies, their homeworld, and everything else they gave up when they uploaded themselves, and everything else that made them people. That's a lot simpler. Even the Saurian horde can't kick the loom off of Planet Link. The Spore kicked the loom off of their own homeworld. When the Mistling nomads went looking to find a way of saving their planet from invasion and destruction at the hands of Saurian industry, Moldavites simply got their attention and asked them if they'd ever heard of the Spore. When the nomads admitted to knowing very little about the Spore, Moldavites suggested they talk to Eden, forgetting that the nomads were flickering across massive interstellar distances in search for something they weren't even sure was out there to be found. Forget. Okay, again, my brain's a little foggy. Forget that the nomads were flickering across massive interstellar distances in search for something they weren't even sure was out there to be found. For Moldavite, this was a simple matter of introducing some decent people in need. I think we don't even need to do that. No, we don't. It's good. Here we go. Forget that the nomads were flickering across massive interstellar distances in search of answers to impossible questions. For Moldavite, this was all a simple matter of introducing some decent people in need of help to an old friend that maybe had a solution for them. Makes sense. Eden is the homeworld of the Spore. Eden is also the creator of the Spore. Hearing this story, I had to admit that talking to Eden sounded like a pretty good idea. Good. Sometimes life happens fast, there's nothing you can do about it. Sometimes you don't get time to adjust. Sometimes the only way to make the most of things is to take them for what they are and just keep doing your best. Like I said, hearing Moldavite speak to you was like feeling a breeze blow right through your brain. Knowing that he wasn't going to hurt us wasn't making the experience any less unsettling or weird. Maybe having telepathic conversations with elder celestial beings of the galaxy is something you get used to. I'll fix that a little bit. Like I said, hearing Moldavite speak to you was like feeling a breeze blow right through your brain. Knowing that he wasn't going to hurt us wasn't making the experience any less unsettling or weird, but maybe having telepathic conversations with elder celestial beings of the galaxy is something you get used to. Turning to Scrap, I started to ask whether conversations with elder beings of the galaxy was a thing you ever get used to. Ignoring my question, Scrap was holding their nomad staff, their star pike, with their head bowed in total concentration. Of course, that's when space collapsed in on me. Everything disappeared in a brilliant white flash. My ears popped. Sometimes things move fast. It's interesting. It's a thoughtful chapter, and I have a bunch of these. Ippy Looney was suggesting that maybe the story moves a little slow. But I don't know. I'm not saying it's as well written as it needs to be yet, but The Hobbit moves slow. You can trust kids. A Wrinkle in Time is a patient story. We'll see. We'll see. Writing is rewriting, right? So this is a case where, I'm making the text as strong as I need to make it, and we'll see how it evolves in rewrites from there. Um, that's all I've got right now. I'm going to come back to this stream on Thursday, and we're going to do a little bit more on um, the one-shot adventure that we're writing on that stream, which is called Dark Space, Dark Matter. That's what it's called. Um, and it's an interesting subject matter. It involves some big lore building for Jump Rangers, so I invite anybody who's interested in having that conversation to join in. I'm going to be gone for the weekend, so I probably won't be streaming on Saturday. We're going to wait till next Saturday for our next session of Metagame. And I may or may not be streaming Thursday morning. There's a lot of work to do before we leave. I'm going to go right now, process this video, and jump right into writing up some pitch content. But this is good. Thank you for watching. Don't hesitate to come back Tuesdays, 5 p.m. and twitch.tv/JumpRangers for the rest of this book and on to other books. This is positive and good for me, and I hope the people who are watching this on YouTube are enjoying it. So let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching. Have a great week.